If you have ever stood in the pest control aisle staring at bottles of chemical spray that cost $30, $40, even $60, only to still see roaches scatter across your kitchen counter a week later, you are going to want to hear about the one product exterminators quietly rely on that costs about $10 a bag. It is not a spray, it is not a trap, and it is not something you need a professional to apply. It is a fine white powder called food-grade diatomaceous earth. And once you understand how it works, you will realize why it has been used for generations to wipe out fleas, bedbugs, and roaches without filling your home with toxic fumes. Let's start with what this powder actually is, because that is the key to understanding why it works so well. Diatomaceous earth, often shortened to DE, is made from the fossilized remains of tiny aquatic organisms called diatoms. These microscopic shells are mostly silica, and over millions of years they settle into deposits that get mined and ground into an extremely fine powder. Under a microscope, each particle looks less like dust and more like tiny shards of glass with sharp edges. That texture is exactly why insects cannot survive contact with it, and it is also why this powder is fundamentally different from every chemical pesticide sitting next to it on the store shelf. Chemical sprays work by poisoning an insect's nervous system, and over time, roaches, fleas, and bedbugs can build up resistance to those chemicals, which is part of why so many homeowners feel like nothing works anymore. Diatomaceous earth does not rely on poison at all. Instead, it works mechanically. When an insect crawls through the powder, those microscopic sharp edges cut into the waxy outer coating of its exoskeleton. That waxy layer is what keeps insects from drying out. So once it is compromised, the insect starts losing moisture rapidly and dies from dehydration, usually within a day or two. Because this is a physical process rather than a chemical one, insects cannot develop resistance to it the way they do with sprays. That is a massive advantage for anyone who has already tried the expensive stuff and watched it stop working. Now, let's talk about why this matters so much for the three pests homeowners struggle with the most, starting with fleas. If you have pets, you already know how fast a flea problem can spiral out of control. Fleas hide deep in carpet fibers, along baseboards and pet bedding and in the cracks of hardwood floors. And they multiply so quickly that by the time you notice bites on your ankles, there's already a full infestation living in your home. Food-grade diatomaceous earth works beautifully here because you can sprinkle a thin layer directly onto carpets, rugs, and pet bedding, let it sit, and then vacuum it up after a day or two. As fleas move through the treated areas, the powder does its work. And because it is safe to use around pets when using the food-grade version specifically, you do not have to worry about the same risks that come with flea bombs or heavily scented chemical carpet powders. The key with fleas is consistency, since flea eggs can survive for a while before hatching. So most homeowners find success by reapplying every 5 to 7 days for a few weeks until the whole life cycle has been broken. Bedbugs are a different beast entirely, and honestly, they are one of the most stressful pests a homeowner can deal with because they hide in mattress seams, box springs, headboards, electrical outlets, and even behind wallpaper. Sprays often cannot reach these hiding spots effectively, and bedbugs have become notoriously resistant to many common insecticides used over the past few decades. This is exactly why diatomaceous earth has become such a trusted tool in bedbug treatment. Because it works mechanically rather than chemically, resistance is not a factor. Homeowners dealing with bedbugs typically apply a light dusting along mattress seams, bed frame joints, baseboards near the bed, and any cracks or crevices where bugs might travel. The powder needs to stay dry and undisturbed to keep working, so this is not a one-time fix you spray and forget. It is a slow, steady barrier that bedbugs cannot avoid as they move around at night looking for a blood meal. Many pest professionals will tell you that diatomaceous earth paired with thorough vacuuming and mattress encasements is one of the most effective non-chemical combinations for getting a bedbug problem under control. Then there are roaches, which might be the pest most homeowners fear the most because they multiply so fast and seem to survive absolutely anything. Roaches are constantly grooming themselves, which actually works against them when diatomaceous earth is involved, because as they clean their legs and antennae, they ingest the powder along with whatever dust is stuck to their body, which speeds up the dehydration process even further. The trick with roaches is placement, since they tend to travel along the same paths every night looking for food and water. A thin layer of powder behind the refrigerator, under the sink, along baseboards in the kitchen, inside cabinet corners, and near any pipe openings where roaches might enter, creates an invisible gauntlet they cannot avoid. Because roaches are nocturnal and prefer dark, undisturbed areas, these are also the exact spots where a light dusting of powder can sit for weeks without being touched, continuing to work in the background long after a chemical spray would have worn off. One question homeowners always ask is whether this powder is safe to use around children and pets, and this is where it is important to be precise. There are 2 types of diatomaceous earth on the market, and the difference matters. Pool-grade diatomaceous earth, used for filtering swimming pools, has been chemically treated and heated in a way that makes it dangerous to inhale in quantity and unsafe for pest control use in the home. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is a completely different product, minimally processed, and considered safe enough that it is even used as an anti-caking agent in some stored grains and animal feed. When shopping for this $10 powder, always look for the words food grade on the label, since this is the version that is appropriate for treating carpets, pet areas, and living spaces. Even with the food grade version, it is still a fine dust, so it is worth wearing a mask while applying it and keeping pets and kids out of the room until the dust settles, since inhaling any fine powder repeatedly is not great for the lungs. Once it has settled into the carpet or crevice it was applied to, it sits quietly and safely until it is vacuumed away. Application technique makes a huge difference in how well this powder performs, and this is where a lot of homeowners get it wrong. The instinct is to pile it on thick, thinking more powder means faster results, but that actually works against you. A thick layer of diatomaceous earth can clump together, and insects are smart enough to walk around large piles rather than through them. The goal is a light, barely visible dusting, thin enough that insects cannot avoid walking through it as they travel their usual paths. A simple way to apply it evenly is using a small handheld duster, or even an old squeeze bottle with holes poked in the lid, which lets you control the amount and get it into narrow cracks and along baseboards without creating visible clumps. For carpets, working the powder gently into the fibers with a broom or a stiff brush ensures it reaches down to where fleas are actually living, rather than sitting only on the surface where it will just get tracked away. Timing also plays a role in how effective this treatment ends up being. Diatomaceous earth needs to stay dry to work, since moisture reduces its ability to damage an insect's exoskeleton. This means it is not the right choice for outdoor use right before rain and indoors. It should be kept away from areas that get wet regularly, like directly under a leaking pipe or a damp basement corner, unless that moisture issue gets fixed first. It is also worth mentioning that patience matters here. Because this is a mechanical process rather than an instant poison, insects do not drop dead the moment they touch it. It typically takes anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days for the dehydration process to take full effect, so homeowners should not expect the same instant knockdown they might see with a chemical spray. What they get instead is a treatment that keeps working continuously for as long as the powder stays in place, which for an ongoing infestation is often far more valuable than a quick spray that fades within hours. For homeowners dealing with a combination of these pests at once, which is more common than people realize, especially in older homes or homes with pets, the beauty of this approach is that one $10 bag can address fleas in the living room carpet, bedbugs near the bedroom, and roaches in the kitchen, all using the exact same product. Compare that to buying 3 or 4 specialized chemical products, each with their own warnings, fumes, and reapplication schedules, and the value becomes obvious. This is also a product with a long shelf life, so a single bag purchased today can sit in a cabinet ready to use the moment any of these pests show up again in the future, making it one of the most practical items a homeowner can keep on hand. It is worth being realistic about what this powder can and cannot do. For a severe, long-standing infestation of any of these pests, especially bedbugs that have spread through multiple rooms, diatomaceous earth works best as part of a broader strategy that includes thorough cleaning, vacuuming, sealing entry points, and sometimes professional treatment for the worst cases. But for everyday flea problems from pets, early-stage bedbug issues, and the constant battle against roaches that so many homeowners face, this simple, inexpensive powder offers something that sprays cannot, which is a non-toxic, resistance-proof solution that keeps working quietly in the background for as long as it takes. At the end of the day, pest control does not have to mean filling your home with chemicals or spending a fortune on treatments that stop working after a few uses. Sometimes, the most effective solution is also the simplest one, sitting on a shelf for about $10, made from nothing more than fossilized shells ground into a fine powder. Understanding how to use it correctly, where to apply it, and which type to buy is really all it takes to turn this humble product into one of the most powerful tools in your home maintenance routine.